All good? All right, I'll call the meeting in order and ask everyone to please stand for pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening and welcome. Agenda changes, I do not believe we have any. Guest recognition. Marcy is the only guest I see that's on. Yep. Okay. I guess Marcy doesn't have nothing to say. Oh, good? Okay. It moves us into items. Let's see. I get my life. They're on your head. Yeah. Items 4, 5, 6, or items 4, 5, and 6. I'll entertain one motion to approve those. I'll move. Jim?
I'll second.
Beth, second. Any discussion on those 4 items? 3 items. Everyone good? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed 4-0. Item 7, items for board discussion and or adoption. Item A is approval of the award to capital outlay project bid. I have separate papers here for that one. It's actually 2 motions we need to do. I'll read the first one. To award the bid for the capital outlay project to MS Lighting. MS Lighting to Blackman Ferroelectric for $58,000 and alternate EC 2, $33,500 for a total of $91,500. I have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Karen, have a second?
I'll second.
Beth? Any discussion, questions? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass 4-0. The second motion is to award alternate EC1 for $5,500 to Blackman Ferroelectric to be paid for out of the general fund. Do I have a motion to approve? Jim, do I have a second?
I can second.
Karen. Okay, just the questions for that is we take it out of the general fund, it's over.
Yeah, we can't exceed the 100,000, so we still need to pay for architect fees out of the 100,000, so that's why we stopped at the 91.5.
Everybody understand that?
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass 4-0. I don't know. Did anybody want to say anything about that project?
It's just.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just replacing the lighting in the 5-6 wing and in the hallway down through that area, and that part of the 7-8 wing will also get replaced. So we're trying to switch everything over to LED, which is much more efficient, and as far as a maintenance standpoint, it's better for us as far as not tinkering with ballast and light bulbs all the time. So we plan on keeping them moved through the whole district like that. We have most of the outside lighting all LED now, and it's just now that's more affordable. We're going to try to push through the building interior.
And you mentioned extra dimming capabilities as well, correct?
Yes, we get a lot of discussion from teachers that want dimming capability, which as of right now we don't have any. So they've been purchasing even drapes to go over fixtures to give a different type of lighting, conducive to their teaching for the kids. But now we're going to actually have dimming capabilities in every classroom, so they can shut it right down low if they want to.
And the only other thing that I would add is camp has recommended that we split it into a base and a couple of alternates because the scope of the work seemed like it was going to be higher than the capital outlay amount would allow. So by breaking it up, we were able to award different parts of it in different ways. So I think that was a smart recommendation on their part to have us break it up into a base and alternates.
Okay. All right, it's all approved. Everything's approved. So item B is discussion budget presentation. So go from there.
So Jim's gonna put up our presentation. Just a second.
And so the guests are now seeing that as well, correct?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we can go to page 2. Oh, you did the top two.
Yes.
Chip?
Basically, oh, sorry.
What's that?
For the butter?
Yeah.
That's good.
Basically, us showing square footage of all the buildings and the outbuildings total for the whole district.
Now, some of that's changed?
Nothing's really changed.
garage.
We have a little different in the bus garage because we have the addition in there, but not too much. Cleaning, custodial, we have the same amount of cleaners per se. We're down to one mechanic. We have not filled that position, but we have had the opportunity of having some additional help during the day from aides, which is really helping an hour or two a day. We've had 3 aides help us for the last 2 months go through in the afternoon and get ahead of our cleaners with wiping down desks and disinfecting and stuff like that. And we plan on fulfilling that mechanic's position in the next year's budget. Contractual services are just, it's pretty basic stuff as far as the same all along, pool permits, elevator inspections, pest control, asphalt sealing, HVAC repair, boiler inspections. It's pretty standard throughout every year. It's pretty much the same. Contractors might change, but pretty much the work stays the same.
If anybody's got a question, just jump in.
Again, supplies, it's again pretty much the same. We might have different vendors, but we still need the same supplies in some shape or form. This year's been a little different because of the pandemic. We've broadened our knowledge about disinfecting quite a bit, and we've got some new products, and we've got some free products from the state that it's going to take me a while to get rid of because we got gallons and gallons of that. But pretty much everything stays the same year in, year out.
John, what are keys and cores?
Keys and cores would be all the locks in the building are all interchangeable core.
Oh.
So the keys I could change your key with someone else's key.
Gotcha.
It's a nice system that you can always change different cores out to different doors. As you know, we just finished up, or we're in the midst of finishing up the capital project. Middle school office, both offices, middle school and primary office, I think came out really nice. It really cleans it up, much more functional, I believe. I like the way it presents when someone walks in.
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice. Right up there.
Done with those?
Yeah. The entrances, again, we've now secured the entrances a little better, especially in the middle school. Much more visibility when someone comes in for the secretaries to to find out information about whoever is coming in. Right now, we still have a couple little things in the middle school. As in the primary, you walk in, and if you had a fob, you could fob to get in that partition, but you couldn't get in through the second door. The interior door is still locked. You have to fob again. And we're doing the same thing in the middle school. I just have to install the fob reader right now. We have all the wires run, so that'll be the same way. As of right now, if you fob it, you're fobbed into both doors in the middle school, but that will change. So again, it's getting security-wise, it's stepping up.
So if someone's got permission to come into the middle school, they can automatically just walk through.
if they right now in the middle school, if they had a fob to get in, that door would open both doors.
Right, that's what I mean, but that's what the goal is, so that if someone has a fob and they have permission for that entrance door, they can go straight through. They don't have to be buzzed in.
They don't have to be buzzed in,
Okay.
but they will have to fob twice.
Right, oh, they have to fob twice, okay.
Yep, they'll have to fob into that interior door also,
Sure.
yeah. Which before it was just a single fob and it opened both.
Okay.
And the reason being, if it's just,
Sure.
it's one more layer. of
If someone
security.
walks in with a gun, it's
Exactly.
fob, you don't want to.
Exactly. It's just one more layer of security. Yep. In the last capital project, we did middle school doors throughout the whole 5-6 wing, and most of the middle school area around the gym and area, that whole area. We have a couple more doors to do that we were going to catch. We have like 2 more doors to replace. They're in the process, but they really cleaned up. The windows in the old doors were so big. As far as security, if we ever were in a lockdown and someone wanted to, you could very easily break the glass, reach over. Now it makes it much more difficult. Still gives the visibility into the room, as you can see. But the doors that project came out really nice. Good solid doors all the way through.
The vents are okay.
The vents we tried to design it without the vents, but with the way the HVAC system is designed,
Okay.
it needed makeup air. It's basically sucking air through that vent. So we couldn't get around the vent. Classrooms, as you see, we've been putting, you see all the partitions we've been doing, and we made a few, we purchased quite a few, and we've got a mixture of the plastic type that you see on the right-hand side, and we also have the type that are they're fixed to the desk by three little brackets. We're in the process right now of buying some more of the plastic paper type that the kids will be carrying around when they come back in session here shortly.
Is that a newer room? Sorry, is that a newer room in the high school?
No.
Flooring, because that's.
It's
No, that's just the art room. That's the art room. That's the old parquet floor.
Just as it was
The
the
old
old
auto body shop.
automotive.
The picture does it justice. Really, it makes it look really nice.
It is cool.
It's very
Yeah,
good.
it is. It's a good floor. A little rough in spots, but it's a good looking floor.
No, you're good. Did we have to purchase more of those dividers because we changed our plans, or did we
Yes.
already buy a whole bunch of them thinking that we're gonna need them at some point?
No, we're purchasing
We're
more
purchasing more,
to
yeah.
move forward with.
So that
bringing
as,
this back.
as we continue to bring kids back,
Yep.
and we'll
We
just.
found ones with handles because the older kids go to different classrooms, so they will have to take those with
They'll be
us.
carrying them.
So who will be carrying them?
The kids,
The kids will be carrying them?
7th and 8th.
Mm.
because otherwise somebody has to clean every single desk shield between classes, and
There's no perfect solution.
no, there's not.
There's
There's
not.
I'll forewarn you, I'm already hearing some grumbling about that. So we'll forewarn our administrators for their meetings on Thursday that.
Yeah,
have some-
it's
We're
out
gonna
there.
get some negativity, I think.
Yeah,
I'm hearing people aren't happy that kids have to carry, and they're talking about because they have so much in their book bags now, and they only get one trip to their locker, and their book bags weigh 80 pounds, and now they have to carry a divider, that type of.
Yeah, it's already on the radar a little bit. I don't think there's a perfect
There's
solution
not, I
available
agree.
to us. Like, teachers don't have time to clean that
Yeah.
anymore. We do need to look at what we're asking kids to carry around, I think. I think that's on the radar for teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't bring kids back without having barriers of some kind, and they would have to be cleaned and disinfected if it didn't stay with the students. So, but the good news is tomorrow night is our first parent sharing session tomorrow night. So we anticipate some feedback. We hope that people realize that we want to problem solve. So we'll continue to take a look at ideas that come forward. But I think the likelihood of us finding a perfect solution is pretty nil.
And you do need the barriers if they're
Correct.
reducing our distancing, which we have to do, right?
Correct.
So that's,
These are carriers this
yeah,
way, not
this way.
on top of the desk.
Right, just so that you're not gonna be able to maintain 6 feet, so you
Correct,
don't need
yeah.
the elevator.
Why would you disinfect the desk then? I thought it was covering the desk, so you didn't have to disinfect the desk.
No, if you look at it, if you go back up one, it's basically the triangular or the 3-sided shield.
Right,
Like the one on the right-hand side.
okay.
So that's what they have to have between them and the other students if they're.
So how do you disinfect the desk?
The teachers are cleaning.
They're, okay, that's what I just
But the
wanted.
teachers couldn't clean
Yeah,
6 more surfaces for this.
So they're wiping down the desk, so they're just saying, you're moving the classroom to classroom, someone's gotta be wiping the desk down.
I like to add, they've been doing a great job, they're helping us out a lot
Yeah.
by doing that.
Teachers.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
The teachers have been really helping us out.
Is that an example of what they'll carry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty close. It's got a little, it's got an opening on the top where it's
Yeah.
like a little handle.
Mhm.
It's not, I don't think it's heavy, but I
It's
can't
not heavy.
remember. A couple, 5 pounds maybe?
No.
I don't think it's
not
even,
even.
less
no, it's pretty light.
So it's light.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not
just-
glass, it's not glass, it's a plastic,
Yeah,
clear plastic, with
Part of
cardboard
each
trim.
other.
just be slightly cumbersome.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, reach out to Inspector Gadget, see if he has one that we can just put a little water on it and and another douse and then
Just
shrink
fold
and
it down.
disinfect at the same
Put it in
time.
your pocket.
Again,
I like the pathway in the elementary.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a little curved instead of just all having it straight.
yeah, that with the soffit, really, it touches it on. It's nice. Again, these are the new security pass-through windows, so, the receptionist can get the information from guests. Break room, in the primary, if you've ever, I'm sure you remember the break room in the primary, it was pretty bad. Now they have a nice little like kitchenette and a nice area to sit and eat. Much cleaner. Nice and bright. This is a long overdue here. The bus garage and the storage barn and the whole asphalt area where the buses used to park was just a nightmare up there. And right now it's just, I'm proud of the way it looks. It's really nice, cleaned up, very functional. Had a few minor issues on the buses where they were parking, but I think everybody now has got the routine down and everybody's happy. And we will have to change some striping this spring when we do our striping out for the parking lots. We're gonna get the buses kind of heading in the right direction the way they're heading now. The striping is going the opposite way, but everything worked out really well. The bus garage, the added square footage in the mechanics area has been great. I mean, before everything was kind of cluttered, the buses didn't even basically fit in the space. The new lift, the mechanic that we have now is he's kind of a neat freak, which is great. He keeps everything organized and tight, and it's functionally it's really well. Again, that's the busing and the parking. We're actually tomorrow or Friday actually getting the clickers for the gates, so the gates will bus drivers will be able to open. The gates will be automatic. They'll be like the garage door clicker, basically. The auditorium, it's kind of our thorn in our side right now, and it, you know, if apparently if COVID wasn't here, we'd be done with it, but the material isn't here. And by March 15th, they're saying all material is going to be on site. So I'm expecting by, you know, the end of March, we should be a total wrap on the auditorium. The staircase right there, and the mezzanine up top is the sound booth. We have a couple little issues there. We might be lowering that. If you can see on the picture on the left, might be lowering that wall a little bit so the visibility is better, to get to view down into the pit during shows. We have maybe a little issue with how we didn't figure out how much heat was going to be up there, because now you're raised up. You know, it's like standing on a ladder up in your house, and you're sweating because of how much heat's up top. So we're working with an HVAC contractor to figure out the diffusing. There's 2 diffusers right in that area. Other than that, and we're just waiting on material. It's called Tambor. It's a wood laminate that goes around, you go around the staircase and some trim. They're just waiting on that. The chairs, they're beautiful compared to what we used to have. The stairwell, the whole carpet, the whole look, all the soundboards and the painting, I think it came out really nice.
It's really sharp. Jim, can you scroll down just a little bit and look at that picture on the left? Oh, go the other way, I'm sorry. Scroll up a little, I guess.
There you go.
And now the picture on the left. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, one more.
Oh.
So that, looking at that, the idea of what we're wrestling with there is if you sit, the picture doesn't really give the depth of the counter. The counter is almost as wide as the table. The table's in front of us. So you got to be right up close to get to the back of it. And then when you're sitting in the chair, when it's all the way down, you actually lose visibility down to the pit. So the solution has to be to raise the counter and sit on bar stool type seats.
Mm.
Or another solution that we're looking at is to do a cutout of the wall in front so that you could sit, and then we'd replace that with some glass so you could still see down to the pit.
The counter had to be that wide.
Because the
Yeah,
soundboard
the
equipment's pretty
big
wide.
Soundboard goes up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it looks great. One of those solutions is going to work and it'll be fine, but it's just like one of those last minute things that.
And you were good with what ended up happening to the floor the last time we were down there? Was the
Yeah.
floor was the issue.
Yeah, the floor was quite an issue. The installer came back and really, I think, did everything he could to have it match
It's
as evenly as possible. Like in the end, I think the shine we got is probably better than what was spec'd, because he really worked hard on it.
Okay, so every year, we talk about the solar field, and there's two colored bars for each year. The first year is 2016-17, and goes all the way over to 2000.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry.
Okay. Second.
Trying to get rid of
No,
the,
next one.
This is the second one.
Okay,
Just trying to get rid of the magnification.
there we go.
That door wasn't unlocked. I had it latched.
What was that?
Okay, so
Someone just came.
the light green bar for each year is what the installer was saying that was the estimated production from our solar fields. So it started out at 1.9 million and this year it's down to 1.88 million. And the green bar, the dark green bar, is what actually we have generated. 16-17 was the first year, so we're gonna say that was the reason why that didn't get started well. But you can see every year, like 2018-19 was great. It was very close to what they had predicted was going to be generated. 2019-20, there's another big dip, and I just showed what this year is supposed to be estimated, but because the year's not complete, I didn't put any numbers in there.
So where does our usage go into?
That's the next slide.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So then the next slide is the light green bars for every year, 16-17 all the way over to 2021. That's what we've done so far. The light green is the numbers from the previous thing, what is actually generated from the solar field, and the dark green is what the facilities actually used. So 16-17 we used more than was generated, but then you can see 17-18, 18-19, and 19-20 was all less than what we generated. 2021, the dark green is higher than what we generated, but I think part of that is because of the construction project that was running through. I think we were using more electricity than normal.
you got to remember, we've added a ton of air conditioning throughout the last few years. So we're definitely using a lot more electricity now than we were before.
Yes, that's the reason why we want to fix the lighting
Yep.
throughout inside. That's going to reduce
Right.
our lighting. So.
And underneath where it says the page numbers, it says National Grid, our credit balance as of January 21st was 258,000. So that's money that is sitting there in credit for us. We can't get cash for it, but it's applied to all of our different accounts for electricity every month.
So we can't ask them to write us a check. We could keep using electricity though, and,
Air conditioning.
you know, if we don't produce enough, then it comes out of that.
Yeah.
Right. So when we don't produce enough, we use more than we produce, they'll take it off of that. So we're really not paying anything for electricity.
So here's just a recap of all the utilities, electric and gas, and you can see like the 17-18 year, there was a cost for electric. That's because we are still paying a little bit for our national grid. It was before we switched over, and then everything after that's been zero. You can see what our total costs for utilities have been, definitely going down. We budget 130 generally. That's when I first got here. I think our total budget was like $500,000.
Yes, definitely.
So we're really in tune with being energy conscious. We just have to prepare for gas, like if we use a lot of gas because it's a really cold winter or something. So that's why it's a little higher than what actually comes out.
So you're budgeting for 60,000, but
Yes, but you can see that we've, like the one cold year, 18-19, we spent $43,000.
Right.
So there's just cushion in there in case it's a really cold winter. Okay, so Tom's budget is divided up into operation of plant, and there's a second slide that will show the maintenance of plant. So you can see the different, the cleaners and their overtime, summer help, contractual, the utilities costs go in there, and so don't supplies. That's only an increase of 0.62% for next year. And the next page, we'll post this whole presentation so you can go back through and look at the pictures and everything again. So maintenance of plant, that increase, that covers the mechanics, overtime, summer help, the contractual costs, supplies, and the BOCES maintenance. That went up a lot this year, and that's because we found out that Monroe, two BOCES, I think, they
Jim Sailor.
yeah.
Just don't say one.
No, they'll pay our Relcom telephone maintenance contract, and so we get BOCES aid on it next year. We never knew that was an option, so
We
now,
kind of stumbled on that one.
yeah, that was a little mistake, but it was great. So the total budget's only up 0.68 for buildings and grounds for next year. And then the last one is Margaret put a little Ruth Bader Ginsburg in there for you. So do you have any questions for buildings and grounds?
So that included hiring another maintenance.
Mechanic.
So it included, like it was an even because we had budgeted for it this year, and when they left, we just didn't replace.
And we've used a lot of that savings for the additional cleaning that Tom has done, and as well as, money in our general fund for the extra purchasing that we have to do for our variety of equipment, sanitizer, cleaner, things of that sort. So it was purposeful to leave it out there. Remember, there was also at the beginning of the year, all of the talk about the state aid being withheld or reduced. So that was a decision we made to help us prepare for what could have been an unpredictable need for funds coming at us.
All the PPE and the desk shields all came out of Tom's budget, so we've been monitoring that closely.
it's a nice tight budget considering it's.
Yeah.
The increases.
Minimal. It is minimal. I just attached the debt service to this just so that we can keep scrolling.
Okay. Maybe you want to explain debt service. I'm not sure if Karen understands it.
Yeah, so I will. So debt service is what we pay, like it's your mortgage for the house. It's principal and interest. So it's all of our debt for next year.
So any loans, capital project monies or anything that we're still paying on?
And there you go.
There we are.
So here's just a summary, and the authorization is how much we borrowed in the year that it was approved, the year that the debt's going to be paid off, and then the principal amount owed as of June 30th, 2020, and that's all in our financial statements. So you can see that our long-term debt is $6.8 million, very low for a school district our size. But we have a band, which is short-term borrowing. It's called the bond anticipation note. That's for this current project. We will be, and that's $5.3 million. We'll be converting that to serial bonds in June. It'll still be part of our debt. We'll be paying principal and interest on that. You want to go up one, Jim? So here's another summary by project. It shows what next year's principal and interest is. That's the first column. And the second column is the estimated building aid that is generated to cover that. And you can notice that very first line, I bolded the building aid. The building aid is very much exceeding what we're actually paying, and that's because of, we've been able to pay off early some of the debt back then. So then you can see like the building aid, prior year projects, I just lumped them all together. Some of them were very small projects like the track building, the fuel depot. Those are, that's additional building aid that we're getting still for these projects that we have no debt for whatsoever.
So Karen, when we do a project and we go up to taxpayers and say it's no additional cost to you, you look at these numbers, you say, what are you talking about, no additional? It's because we're getting the aid, the building aid is coming in every year, which is paying that money for us, so.
Yeah.
So in reality, it isn't costing the taxpayers anything for the project.
It also includes the capital outlay projects that once we spend the money one year and we get the aid the following year. So that's included in there. And then the bottom line, it says 2021-22 capital outlay, we would transfer 100,000 into the capital reserve fund to pay, or capital project fund to pay for that. We don't get any aid to the following year. So you can see the debt that we have is 1.6 million and the building aid is 1.5 million. So the difference is about $49,000. It's built into our tax levy already. So it's just, but it's very small impact on our, for the tax levy. The next page, I just did a summary of revenues and expenses, kind of a recap. I've got building aid for the 2021 capital outlay project. Transportation aid is considered part of that, and then we don't have to. We're not transferring any money into the debt service reserve. We only do that if we have money left over from a prior project. We can't just use that for something else. We put that into the debt service, and that's designed to be able to pay for future projects when needed. So our total revenues for all capital related is 1.6 million. Our expenditures are long-term debt. We won't have any short-term debt. And then the capital outlay project will be 100,000. I added the debt for transportation vehicles. It's interest only if we don't pay cash for the buses this year. So our local share is 5,400, which is simply the debt for the transportation vehicles if we have to finance them.
If we have to finance something.
Excuse me?
If we have to finance.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Other than
We have to buy,
otherwise,
we just can't,
right.
whether or not we have to finance.
Right. And then the next one. This I just include just as a reminder, we have, the board has approved, if we ever need to, it's called a RAN, it's a revenue anticipation note. If the state ever stopped paying us altogether and we couldn't continue to function, this would give us cash. It's kind of like a line of credit, they would give us cash. So we just have a $5,000 line item in there just to have it available if we ever need to do that. So again, we'll post this up too, so after you go through it, if you have questions, feel free to call or email.
Kristen, could you talk for just a second about the timing of when things come off of the debts, like why it's important to plan facilities projects?
Yep. Ryan also wants Bernie Donegan to come back and talk to us about, they have a good graph that you always want, as debt comes off, you want to fill that with new debt so that it's always even, so your budgets aren't jumping up and down, and you have to explain to taxpayers why that is. So Bernie Donegan's office is really good about planning that. So they've already started telling us that as this debt's coming off, we want to start a new project and when we should be going out to borrow on that so that it fills in the gaps. And they're really good about explaining that. They'll come and talk to them because we need to start talking about another capital project. And
Because when we start to do a project, from the day we start talking about it, it's 2.5, 3 years later before it's there and done, so.
Or shovels in the ground,
Yeah.
And then that way too, even with anything that's aidable, you're not,
yes,
doing that as well.
yeah, so it's the expense side and the building aid side that, you don't want it going up and down. You want to try to keep it as even as possible.
So Kristen and I had a meeting with Bernie Donegan last month to talk about it a little bit, and we're going to invite them to a future meeting in the spring to go through that planning. And that'll be a good information session for us to start thinking about how we want to go about the next facilities project. Can I just like editorialize for just a second? Like Tom does a great job on the buildings and grounds, and he really takes it very seriously and a lot of ownership for how they look. He knows that I can't give a compliment to him without making fun of him also. So the project, when we worked with Nicole, Tom and Kristen were in my office going through that project when the initial meeting. And anytime somebody commented on facilities, I could hear Tom like stammering, anytime there was a negative comment about facilities, Tom took it very personally. So thank you, Tom, for how committed you are to the upkeep of our buildings.
Okay.
Okay, in this little report that we'll talk about at the next meeting, I included two replacement forms. It's a tax cap and then our revenue, just because information changes, and I wanted it to tie out to what we actually are approving tonight. So the first page, which is labeled 37, it's exactly the same. I highlighted the number that is different in the board packet. The tax levy limit was $10,257,000. But we got our pilot payment forms from the Livingston County to say this is what you can expect for next year. And then I had to add in two solar projects that we'll be getting money for next year. So that bumped up our pilot's receivable, and that number is one of the variables in this calculation. So it bumped us down to $10,250,000. It came down 7,000. And so that I have to file by March 1st, so the board would approve that tonight. And then I wanted you to tie out to, this is page 39. I highlighted the numbers that this affected. It's not a lot, but I just wanted to show you how it worked. So I changed the number in the real property taxes, and the pilot number went up a little bit, so the budget gap went down just a little bit. So that right now the tax levy increase is 1.05%.
That's the cap.
Yes,
That's the maximum that we can go out with.
yes.
Correct.
Unless you wanted to go for a supermajority.
If you go over that, you have to do super majority. So
Yeah.
we've never gone over that.
No.
Okay, questions for Kristen before I ask for a motion to approve the tax cap? Does everybody understand that? It's a huge, complex formula that has to go into it. And then this is what the governor says we have to do. Otherwise, if we exceed the tax cap, I guess we don't get our, what are those checks we used to get?
The star rebate.
Whether or not the star rebate check they used to get, whether or not they'll be around anymore or not, you don't want to exceed for that either. So you don't want the public coming down on top of us. You know, if we don't need it, if we don't have to. I mean, I'm not going to say that someday we may have to in order to get quality education.
I love the formula that you put in our packet.
Yeah.
Just to show you, not even sure if PennDOT works, you know?
Yeah, it's page 38.
Yes,
He's going to check the numbers.
Yeah, right.
mumbo jumbo.
Maybe audit committee should look into that.
No calculators allowed. Okay, no one's got any more questions. I'll entertain a motion to approve the tax cap calculation as presented. As presented. So, someone like to make it?
I'll make that.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Karen? Any further discussion or questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass 4-0. Okay. We are moving on to COVID. Discussion on COVID, and then we'll move right into strategic planning after that.
Sounds great. Just, Kristen, do you want to talk about where we're at in terms of the budget, the revenue versus expenditure?
Oh, where's it? Is this?
Page 39 of the packet.
Yes.
It looks like it's right after this.
That's what I mentioned. Like, that was pointing out these two numbers change, or these three numbers change. I highlighted it. I tied that into the tax cap.
Gotcha, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Before we move, then what I wanted to highlight there is just we broke out, when people were talking about the aid, on page 39, so Kristen has an updated page, the $910,000 anticipated from the government. So if you look at the state's contribution of 8.6 million, And then the federal contribution of 900,000, up from 115,000 this year. So one of the big concerns isn't the overall amount of the money, although it's still not what the state promises us through foundation aid. One of the big concerns is what happens after this year and next year when the 900,000 that's coming from the federal government is not available to the state to pass through to us. So where will the $1 million come from that the state is counting on from the federal government, which is still under what the state is supposed to be giving us 2 or 3 years from now, when it's anticipated that more of the school funding will be back on New York State. So that's one of the big concerns, and we wanted to break that out to show you that it's not just about the bottom line of the money, but where the money comes from and how long it can be counted on needs to be something that we're factoring into our budget discussions. Anything else on that?
So what do you do with that? So like it's there, but you don't count on that whole amount?
Well, no, we build that in, but we're saying that the year after that, we
Yeah.
can't continue to count on that money. So
Okay.
how are we going to continue a budget that level without the state?
Providing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so anything that we're doing over the next couple of years, we have to be able to pay for when that money goes away also, right?
Right.
So we just need to be thinking 2 or 3 years out in
Yeah.
sustainability when we have those discussions.
Okay.
Thanks, sorry about that.
But that's all right. I thought we already talked about 39, I think she was just telling us the numbers were different. But that's fine.
Actually, on top of that though, we did get an email from, I don't remember who it was from exactly, but advocating for, because there is a concern of where the money's gonna come.
From Nesba, from Brian.
Yeah, so they have forms or letters
Right.
being made out.
You guys sign it?
I
Go
do.
right in, you can go right in and
Yeah.
click on it, put your name in there and sign it.
Yeah.
You'll probably get a message from
Saying
our Caledonia rep,
Marjorie.
Marjorie.
yeah.
She usually responds with a letter thanking you for.
Yeah, I did that for the transportation
So did I,
too.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so when you get the advocacy, that's what we're doing, is pushing that out
I
that
just want to
way.
make sure everybody saw
Yeah.
it. Did it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, anything else on any budget items? All right, we'll move on to COVID, I guess.
Just a,
Tom can go.
yeah, you're all set.
Okay,
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tom.
guys.
Thank you.
have a good night.
Thank you.
Tom, I had a block in the door out there, I don't know if it's still in it.
I dogged the door down so that it's open.
Okay,
Okay.
Thanks,
I just
Tom.
didn't want anything left in there all night.
Just a couple of quick updates in regards to COVID-19. Our vaccination of faculty and staff, in addition to all of the reports that Kristen has prepared, she's also scheduled and rescheduled anybody who worked here and admitted and said that they wanted a vaccine through Livingston County. So as of this week and next week that's already scheduled, we will have one person who still wants to get a vaccine through us and through Livingston County. Other than that, everybody who's requested our assistance in getting that vaccine has received it through Kristen's scheduling and through the principals, like playing Twister every day, trying to get coverage when people are going for their doses. And we are finding that the second dose is creating a little bit more challenge. We really, if there's one hiccup with Livingston County, they have been incredible through this whole thing. As the county superintendents, we tried to advocate for the second dose to be given on Friday instead of Wednesday, but unfortunately,
Yeah, do it when you get it.
yeah, you gotta do it to get it. And they weren't willing to commit to that, but they've been incredibly helpful and supportive through this entire process, whether it's contact tracing or access to testing, or now, purposely setting aside doses for the schools. And it's been a great partnership. They really,
We'll advocate for us now. Well, you got yours, right, for the school? Karen, you must have yours,
Yeah, I
right?
have like.
Yeah, no,
Then just Beth and I advocate.
I did say in Rotary, keep looking at the Livingston County site and the state
Yeah, but
site.
that's only for, Livingston County site's only for 1B only,
Okay,
not 65 and over or any of the other. It's only for essential workers right now. At least that's what it says.
well, I'm of the
I look at
impression,
it every time.
yep, I'm of the impression that the new state pop-up site is going to be posted within Livingston County, one in Mount Morris. And I tried to have our district host the second one, but they were looking specifically for a church and they had a list that they were looking for, so.
okay,
And I was told that a good tip is that state site tends to update with the new locations at around noon. So if you happen to be able to be at a computer around noon, it might be worth
The
refreshing
I
a
am
couple of times.
eligible one,
What's that?
am I eligible one, that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a vaccine, so thank you, Kristen, and all the
Yeah,
principals for
thank
the
you,
work.
Tristan. for all
Get
that
folks to
work.
those. Next up is I talked a little bit about, and we talked about the screens. Grade 7 will be coming back on Monday, March the 8th. And grade 8 will be coming back on Monday, March the 15th. I want to thank Jen. Jen and her team has really been working on this since around Thanksgiving. And then we started seeing some of the spike issues, so it really went back burner for a while there, but they got the ball rolling very early on this. And then after we've announced it, Ryan Wagner and Jen have been working extremely collaboratively, taking a look at how we can do all of this. So you take a room like this is a larger space. They have to be on the same page as far as how each of the buildings, rooms may be used for all grade levels. So it wasn't just Jen figuring out 7 and 8, but she had to figure out 7 and 8 in a way in coordination with Ryan, looking down the road a little ways, who may be bringing students back also. So they, as soon as we announced, they made the decision to work collaboratively. And we have our kickoff meetings tomorrow, first parent meeting at 4 and at 6, we're doing it via Google Meet, where they have a one-page schematic that explains everything, but then also a PowerPoint that goes through the list of a variety of information, including some of the pictures of room configurations. Over break, Jen visited Livonia and Caledonia Mumford to take a look at what they've been doing. We've been in conversation with Mount Morris, and earlier in the year, Tom, Ryan, Jen, and I visited the Perry School District, which has been live for all students since the beginning of the year. So, really done a great job, invested a lot of time into it, and look forward to answering as many questions as we can. We had the opportunity to talk about the screens, so we'll get some additional feedback on that and try to find the most appropriate solution given all the constraints that we faced.
So I actually have a question about that. What is the reasoning behind just going back 4 days and not 5?
With the 7th and 8th grade, right now the transportation schedule is totally reliant upon getting all of the students here in mostly one run, K6 and then 7-12. So we couldn't start doing 5 days a week because it would have to start interrupting transportation because we have to be ready for the whole district. And then another reason for that is that students will be back in, but the teachers are still responsible for the students who are on remote instruction, and that's part of the reason the Wednesdays were built in, as well as the shorter day.
Thank you.
Good.
Good question.
Hey, Ryan, I had a question about the vaccination. We heard that there's a state requirement now that they want a report of all those vaccinated. So that sounds like something that would be easy for us to do, right? Since you're tracking who has the vaccine.
Yeah, it's part of an executive order. In fact, we started. It actually got some press today. Executive order. There was some concern that the agency asking for vaccination status could potentially be a privacy issue. So I fielded a concern about that hey, this is out there. I'm working with Eric Schneider today. Eric wasn't complaining on behalf of Avon. He was giving me a heads up about some of the buzz that he's seeing. And so he and I had a brief conversation about that. About an hour and a half later, there was a NISCUS bulletin pushed out that said the state is looking at other ways to gather that information. So I think it's been tabled. It was announced and there was a due date given, but the survey that we were supposed to use never came. We actually started today. We sent out a Google form and we were collecting the information. So we'll have to head that off.
Oh, that's how you were going to do it? They'll just have.
We were trying to get out ahead of it and have the information, then we could just fill out the report and go, because there was confusion about whether or not it was going to be a report that we just filled in, or if the state was actually creating the survey that people had to fill out.
Right.
The whole idea is just trying to pay attention to what percentage of teachers have been vaccinated. And I think that's a metric that Governor Cuomo wants in order to take a look at how he handles schools. But it was called off today with no future information given yet.
I was gonna say, why can't schools just give them the number, not who?
Right, just a percentage.
Right, and we believe that that's what it was all it was going to be.
Yeah.
But the actual collection was never established, whether we needed to collect the information and just report the final number, or if it was going to be done via a survey to the state. So like a lot of these things, the executive order came and then there's been a rush to try to get it in place, and sometimes there's questions that have to be ironed out before it can move forward, and sometimes it moves forward and then the questions get ironed out, so. Remember the COVID rule, what was true 10 minutes ago may not be true now, it might not be true 10 minutes from now. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And then the only other thing that I wanted to mention is, I kind of mentioned, Ryan is taking a look at the high school and trying to determine the best, most appropriate way to bring high schoolers back. And we're looking at doing that after the spring break. That's what I have for COVID at this point.
You got any questions? Okay, move on to strategic planning.
Strategic planning, we're in the phase of planning the next steps. Beth gave some very thoughtful feedback after our last meeting. I had a chance to talk with Nicole about that over the break. I sent an email back to some folks confirming the information that had come my way. Unfortunately, I have not had a chance to connect with Nicole since the weekend to kind of do a final talk it through and make sure that the wording is where we want it. But we did, we're in the process of starting to look at when Nicole will be working with the appropriate building teams to start doing the planning at the building level. We'll keep you posted on that as far as the schedule. And then when that starts, I'll announce to the community again where we're at. And that's where we're at with strategic planning.
Questions? If not, like we're looking at changing our social studies.
Yeah, just
Our
the,
current social studies book, so the board's, one of the board's obligation is we have to approve the textbooks and so on. So Brian has what has been recommended.
speaking of what students carry around in their bag.
That
I know,
That's
when
a
you were talking about the
temporary-
weight nights, as I'm looking at this one.
Yeah, this is,
You know, they seem to just tend to sit on my kitchen table and it's about. as far as I go.
You have to move.
This came forward from the social studies department. They worked with Ryan Wagner to follow the textbook review and adoption update process. I have a copy of it here. I know that this is a pretty standard AP textbook. It's a very popular one being used around the area, but I have it here if you'd like to take a look at it.
I don't know if we're gonna take a look at it now, or, I mean, before we
No,
we
because
can
there's a
approve it next
protocol
meeting.
of looking at multiple ones and,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Giving multiple
So
ones.
this would be
Has to
down,
Available for online. right?
this would be down in Ryan's office if you want to look at it. If not, this way here, I don't want to pass it around now, so we have to wipe it all down and so on, but it'll be in the office till the next board meeting, which that time we will approve. Or just,
I trust the
okay, I
experts.
just want to give you, I mean, it's our obligation, so it's there for you to look at if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. but- Okay.
I should be done with it in another day or two.
Oh, there you go. Easy reading. High touch.
Okay, now we have a discussion approval of this year's instructional calendar for 2021. And Ryan will go through that change for us.
Yeah, I'm never aware of the Board of Education having to look at the instructional calendar for the same year as many times as we've had to look at this one. I think,
We don't have a copy of it though, right?
Oh,
I
No,
think
I
nice
just
copy.
printed it myself.
I got 21, 22, I got two of them.
There should be, so I handed out an updated copy of 2022.
That's okay, you can just,
It's
the changes aren't that.
Is it, you know what page it is if you want?
It's page 41.
Okay.
Yeah, it's page 41, and, there's been a couple of changes, so I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understands what we've done this year.
Because in the packet, it was 3-0.
Right, yeah, so looking at this year's instructional calendar, the moves that we made to be proactive, we had 2 professional learning days. Others have called them superintendent's conference days. I like professional learning days. That's why those days exist, is for dismissing students so that the teachers can engage in professional learning. They have to be tied to professional learning specifically.
We thought it was a day off for you. Superintendent's Day.
So the moves that we made, we planned 2 at the beginning of the year. I came to the board over the summer is when we started our COVID opening plan. We moved our spring professional learning day to be the Tuesday, September 8th, so that we could have 3 days in a row of preparing to deliver school this year in a unique way. So that was the first move that we made. The second move that we made was we had a full conference day scheduled for October, the first Friday in October. And we kept that day, but we created a remote learning day on the 21st of October. And as a result of keeping that day and going full remote, which really proved to be, a really progressive decision, and support from the board was great in order to do that, because we started using the remote model pretty shortly after that with some regularity. But when we did that, we canceled the November 5th first late arrival day that we were going to do. There was just a lot going on, changes to the calendar. The families were dealing with unique structures. So we canceled the first late arrival day. So they were the moves we made at the beginning of the year, and we've rolled through until February 4th, where we did our first late arrival day that we actually put in place. This was done on a Thursday. The feedback that came in, there's a variety of professional learning that took place, and I think Christina and Jackie did a great job with the report to the board, explaining what we were doing and what happened on each of the days. There's curriculum writing, there's professional learning from speech pathologists to teacher aides, all had access to professional learning aimed at them. And so it was very successful. The feedback from the faculty and staff has been very positive. We did have some some suggestions from the community about the use of all Thursdays for the future professional learning days, because it's the same cohort of students who would be having a shorter day and impacting their learning. They were scheduled for Thursday last year, just because they were scheduled for Thursday last year. We didn't move it to Wednesday in time for the first February one. So we rolled with it, but I think the suggestion to consider moving them to Wednesday to have it be less of an impact on students in grades 7 through 12 is a good suggestion, and I thank the parents for bringing that forward. And so that's what this request that I'm asking you to approve tonight is about. It's really just moving the next late arrival day from Thursday the 11th to Wednesday the 10th, moving it up the one day, and moving it from tax day on 4/15 to 4/14 as the next late arrival day. And the plans for those days will be largely the same. Targeted professional learning, systematic work on the curriculum, and or benchmarking and use of the new iReady tool, and making sure the teachers have data and have some professional learning, so they are able to take that data and turn it into interventions for students as quickly as they can.
And the remainder of the day will be remote because it's on a Wednesday.
For 7 through 12, the remainder of the day will be
Right.
remote or whatever other modified support. There's some additional support plans there, but for the K-6 students, it would just
Right,
be
they'll
a
be
2-hour late arrival. So even talking it through, you can hear how convoluted it is, but Jackie and Christina have done a great job of getting to the details and meeting people with what they need.
Any questions?
No, it was impressive what they were able to do on the 4th.
And just 2 hours of uninterrupted time is magic. When I did my dissertation, I knew I needed an hour and a half. Like, I couldn't get into heavy brain work. I don't know how you did it, Jim, but if I had less than 2 hours, it was hard to get started. But 2 hours is about right. I wish we could give them more, but I think it's a really nice way to block out some distractions and let people concentrate on work.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the changes for the 2021 calendar. A second.
I'll second.
Beth, any further discussion or questions? Now, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, 4-0. Item G is discussion, is to look at the draft 2021-2022 instructional calendar, which also gave us a little challenge.
Yes, it does. So in your packet, you had draft calendar 3.0. I sent you the email that it may be updated because I had a chance to work with the administrative team today, and we did come up with one change. So I passed out, put in your area, draft 4.0 before the meeting today. So what's in the packet is obsolete now, and what was left at your station is what we have. So this is the original draft. To create the draft, last year I followed a couple of different parameters. More or less what I do is connected with Genesee Valley BOCES. There's a calendar committee with the Genesee Valley BOCES. So it starts there with some discussions, grows to the entire Genesee Valley BOCES superintendent, where we go through the calendar, superintendent meeting. I then roughed out something for Avon, taking a look at some various things that I could, various examples that I could find around the area. I talk it through with the ATA roundtable because it's tied to the number of work days that they have, work with the administrators and work with the Board of Education. the order is not always prescribed, like who I talk to first, but that's the group that I try to get some thinking from in terms of when we're creating the days. A couple of unique challenges for, well, the base challenge is 186 teacher days and 180, and at least 180 student days. So we have 186 teacher days and 182 student days with the 4 professional learning days. And then from there, we have to get those in, from September to June. So that's kind of what we have to deliver in this. And then we take into consideration some additional unique challenges. Some things that are always challenges. When is Christmas Eve? When's the last day of school going to be? All of those situations start coming into it. So if you just want to look briefly across each of I'll go through the 10 months of the school year pretty quickly. September, straightforward. We're opening before Labor Day with a professional learning day with staff, which allows us, when we do that before Labor Day in September, before Labor Day, just gives us some additional flexibility with the calendar throughout the rest of the year. In October, standard professional learning day on the 8th, traditionally attached to Columbus Day weekend, so that's the same. Getting into November, it's the first planned late arrival day on the Friday, the 5th of November. We have the 11th as Veterans Day. And because of some of the flexibility that starting before the Labor Day gives us, we can have the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as a day for families. Moving into December was very straightforward. This is the change that came in. It was suggested that because of the conferences for elementary school students that we stay away from December as a planned late arrival day, and it actually fits better in January. So that came from the admin team today, so thank you for that. So in January, we have the planned late arrival day, and then the green is the state testing, with the 28th being a rating day for the high school, and it would be a student day for the rest of the district. In February, we move into February 11th as a planned late arrival day, and then February break is pretty straightforward. In March, again, part of the flexibility of starting that first superintendent's conference day or professional learning day before Labor Day is some flexibility, so we're able to have a professional learning day in March. And then April gets a little funky. So this is where we are different from Monroe County. And from what I understand, not the tradition, like the practice has been in the Genesee Valley area, when we can, is to absorb the spring break, absorb what would be Good Friday into the spring break, as opposed to having it start the break. And Monroe County is largely having it start the break with Good Friday. Yeah, and then the challenge is, if we were to do that, it would move us out of step with a lot of the districts in our county. I mean, in our BOCES. It's not every district, but most districts in our BOCES, which creates a problem as far as BOCES programming goes. So just better for our kids to do it this way. And then the other challenge that I'm not comfortable with what Monroe County is doing is, by the way they have it scheduled with the returning on the 25th, there's only one day before a state test starts on the 26th for the 3 through 8 testing. So that's why we're landing here, why we're landing opposite Monroe County. There was a lot of discussion about this, but in the end, I think this is best for our students.
Because
Yeah.
we've been away from Monroe County for years.
Yeah.
They've been there 2 weeks for years, and we split here for years.
Yeah.
But the biggest concern was with our BOCES, with as many BOCES as possible, because our kids go into the program, if BOCES is closed and we're open, and our kids aren't going over there, and then we're closed and they're open.
Yeah, the more we are split, the more it makes it 2 weeks of compromised programming for students at BOCES, which is not right. And then tucked in there is the late arrival day, and that's strategically timed to be coming off of the break and preparation for the testing that is starting. So it gives the 3 through 8 folks a window to do some preparations for the testing. Move into May, a full professional learning day in May, and then we move into June. The fuchsia in June is Juneteenth. That's a new state holiday. There are a couple challenges with the state holiday, is that it's being recognized by the state. It's next year, it's prescribed when it needs to be observed. It has the effect of just being an extra day in the calendar. We still have to get to 186 teacher days around it. But that's, I listed it in the fuchsia rather than just listing it with the holidays because I wanted it to stand out, especially in year one. And then tentatively right now, the last day for students would be the 24th of June, ending on that Friday.
So how does Juneteenth affect our regions?
There are no Regents exams scheduled for that day. The state is not scheduling tests that day.
Okay.
And there's none that week? Or they
There,
just-
there is testing, so I need to highlight that.
Yeah, there should be some kind of
They
reason.
should, yeah, they should be in green.
Well, that's why this is a draft.
So
Everyone gets to take a look at it. There may or may not be
Yeah.
minor changes.
Look forward to version 5.0.
Okay.
This is a calendar that many parents like to see quickly so they can schedule vacations and stuff early in advance, so.
Ryan, down on the right side under purple.
Mhm.
It still says February,
yep.
December 10th.
Thank you. Good, that's still version 5.0. And then the last thing that I'd point out is in the middle, just under the calendars is, something Maya and I worked on last year was to put it on the calendar that just in case there's some sort of challenge that we know where the days will come from if we exceed the number of days. That we'll start in the April break and we'll start with as late as we can in April break, which would be the Thursday, the 14th, and work backwards from there.
Is Easter on the 17th?
Yes.
Graduations,
Still to be determined.
okay. I'm not sure, I was gonna look and see if it was on the other calendar.
I don't believe we have it on the other.
That's
calendar. I don't think I've seen
I
it.
just
on the
clicked
other.
on here and it's talking to me.
It's in the traditional calendar. Can I answer any other questions about the draft calendar?
Makes sense.
Field any concerns? All right, thank you.
Okay. Item H is discussion on first reading of the revised policy 5661, the wellness policy. So, Ryan, if you want to just tell us what the changes are?
Yeah, the changes are really to create a position of the wellness committee facilitator. So it's one person who is responsible for bringing together. That title wasn't named in the policy previously. There were several wellness coordinators listed, but by making it one person responsible for it, that'll be their job in moving forward. And then the rest of it are just minor edits to remove specific names from the policy. And then give us a little more flexibility with the specific titles, like appropriate department heads as opposed to trying to name every department head every year. So it's just some increased, some change of wording that gives us a little bit more flexibility. Those people would definitely be on the committee, and then we'd still have to round out the membership of the committee with student, parent, and this committee is recommended that a board member serve as well. So when we get it approved, Ryan Wagner, we'll appoint him. I'll recommend him as the wellness committee facilitator. And then he will set about getting the wheels in motion to start having it operate. And the reason for that came from the mental health review, looking at some of the work that they were doing in terms of updating the counseling plan, and then some of the work that started to come out already about the strategic plan and the need to align the plans that we have is where some of the impetus for making these changes came from.
So is the current committee just in transition now, Ryan? Since you have the former facilitators retired now, right? So,
Well,
or was it more, was it Maura and Ben Horney was listed
Yeah,
there?
well,
But I don't know how active it was.
the team has been in transition.
Yes.
And it's through a variety of administrative changes and the COVID kind of crept in there too. So we're jump starting.
Mhm. And same thing with the board rep too, right? So that could be something we could add to our reorg meeting maybe and.
Yeah, it's a great place for
Right,
it.
maybe that's something that,
Yeah.
if you're gonna appoint somebody each year, I mean, just a thought.
That's a great idea. I mean, we'll have to do one before the reorg meeting this year, but
Yeah.
that's a great place to re-up it.
Yeah.
Okay, again, this is the first reading, so,
I like being able to read it with your changes and it really helps.
right, so it'll be on the next board meeting, second reading and approval, okay? All right. Moving on to reports, president's report. Just a reminder to my board members that evaluations, if you haven't turned them in, they're due. And with that, I will turn it over to Beth, because I know she has
Yeah.
quite a bit for us, somewhat.
So the Genesee Valley School Board Association met most people met via Zoom. There's a handful over at Leroy. And I do have some handouts I could give you. Mostly, Pat was just saying they'd been working for weeks trying to get information from the governor's office and legislative in terms of election procedures. And I know that there was some information that came from NISBA about that. And, for us, and it had to do with signatures and, bigger districts and, percents and stuff like that. So there's no real new information, but whatever present system we have and provisions remain for the meantime in terms of, petitions for
Running for the school board.
running for the
Yeah.
school board, correct. And then also in-person voting. So they talked about like absentee ballots, which we would normally have anyway. So they're just waiting to see if anything's gonna be different, in with
I hope
COVID.
it's not like last year.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
If they
right.
take the executive power away, it won't be.
They were offering a superintendent evaluation virtual workshop. That's on March 5th. He was just saying that it's more presenting about best practice versus it used to be where districts would just share what their approach was, but now they're saying like this is the best practice. So there's just a reminder about that. It's just on nisba.org/events. We've already kind of done I might just do it just to see if
Sure.
there's anything new or different, or any of us can. So I made a couple copies of that if somebody needed that. They are creating their own webpage, and they're hoping that that'll be up and at least the startup by the end of June. And it's just another place for information and resources and events that are happening. Pat also mentioned that the Genesee Valley School Book will be happening, not to the extent that they had initially hoped, but just a modified version. And the whole idea is, they can raise the money with ads that would be in the book. And it's really a source that they could give to businesses and real estate agents to just let prospective buyers know a little bit about the school districts in our area. And it'll just right now contain basic information. So he may mention that reaching out, I think, to superintendents or maybe district clerks, they're just looking for a photo, some basic district information, and contact information.
It would be good information for like the County Chamber of Commerce to be able to put in their package.
Yes. So, and, he may call on, somebody in each, from each district to do that. So, once the books are available to go start, passing them out. So I'm gonna write that down because I do like the Chamber of Commerce.
You get the county and you got the Avon Chamber of Commerce too.
Correct.
They put out a book once a year or something like that. They
Right.
can put more information about the school.
There is also a virtual seminar for prospective school board members.
Is that the one
So
by
that's
four
for 4
counties?
counties.
Marcy, are you watching? I don't think Marcy's on, believe it.
No, she's not up.
Anyway, so that, I have handouts. So what I also might do is I'll give you some I made some copies, so maybe Maya has them, if somebody does come to the office,
Great, yep.
they may.
This
be
is
able-
usually, what's the date on this? This is before,
It's March 13th, which
it's
is
be way before the petitions
petition.
or anything goes out to say there's school board opening, so people would have to be
Just
in
thinking
their
about
mind, they're thinking about it and they want to go to something, the Four Counties puts on a fairly decent one, so.
yeah, they do. I remember going myself and it was just very, very difficult. And then I do have, I made copies, but they're the only thing I can see that's coming up that would affect a larger group is they have Jay Verona coming. There'll be a box dinner, but they don't have a date.
Yeah.
So in terms of the calendar, it's really about when we're meeting as a group and not anything much more inclusive. Although anybody's welcome to come, he said, if you have more than one person from the district.
Oh, yeah, Jay.
Coming to the
We had,
meetings.
we had Jay at, when we had NABA, hosted NABA.
Oh, yeah, a couple years
We had a
ago.
pretty good crowd. I mean, Jay is the NISBA attorney for.
Very sure.
And our box lunch was from Tom Walls, so that was great, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just don't have a date for you, so it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to
And
me.
if you, I may have it before you and I'll let you know if I get it, because
Yep.
I got a meeting tomorrow with them, so.
So it was interesting, with Roundtable, I did share, about, our process with the strategic plan, that, wrapping up some of the capital outlay, and then just returning and being able to share what, Jen had done with the in-person learning for grades 7 and 8. And there's a lot of districts that are like looking to do that or share that, they're already there, like you mentioned, even in addition to Pelham and Livonia, which they went to, Perry and some of the other ones. My one big takeaway from that is Norm spoke from BOCES. You know how they're doing BOCES 2 full days? So they were actually asking for how is that working out in terms of moving forward. It probably would mess up with maybe semester scheduling and things like that, but rather than going 5 half days, if BOCES kids went 2 full days, what might that look like?
Yeah, no, it's been a conversation.
Okay.
In general, the feeling of the being on campus for 2 full days is much richer, much deeper. They can get more into things.
Correct.
But then there's a 5-day gap before they're on campus again.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge. The reward seems to be there in terms of being hands-on for a longer period of time, losing less of time to transportation.
Yep.
So it's been an ongoing discussion. There's not a perfect solution because those students do in effect have to have then a separate schedule back at the home school
Right.
for those other 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge.
So that's that for legislature. So I'll just leave these out, so after the meeting, if you're interested, you can just pick one up.
Okay, and that meeting that Beth goes to is open to anybody who wants to attend. You can have other representatives that come over, so that president's meeting. I'm not sure, do you guys all get it? You get that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a one listserv, yeah.
Yeah, not everyone gets it. Okay, anything else, Beth?
No, although I didn't know where that other
Oh,
thing comes in.
want to do it at
Thank
the
you.
round table?
Let's do it.
Okay, unless,
So
You
I'm
were
good for
gonna do it during-
I was gonna
legislature.
bring it up.
okay.
We're talking about the cards, right?
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the administrators' reports. Questions on the written report?
It's just like,
Everyone good?
yeah, I'm just always still amazed. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Right?
How about any of the administrators? You got any additional comments, or? I can tell Rob's got something, he's smiling.
All right, give a thumbs up if you're good.
That was just
Good.
I
Beth
want to say something.
saying positive things
Oh,
like she
can't hear
always
you.
does to make people happy. So thanks, Beth.
Can't hear you, Rob, sorry. He's unmuted.
I wonder why you're so quiet in here.
It was a compliment to Beth. Did you hear that? No.
There we go.
We can hear you now.
Say it again.
I was just complimenting you, Beth. You always say nice things to encourage us. Appreciate it. The teacher in you.
Yeah.
I saw Jackie gave a thumbs up. She's good. Jen, are you good?
Okay.
Yeah, you can head on out if you'd like. Is that what you're doing there?
I love the idea of what Ryan did with the seniors coming
Oh, it was
together
great.
for a
It was
day.
great. Yeah.
That needs to be shared with other districts. I just thought that was,
He did a great job with it, like he did, but it was really cool to see kids who hadn't seen each other in a while interacting. That was the reward, I thought, that was, and, I mean, some of the activities that, like, Rob Hayes did like a financial, planning session, was one, there's a variety of sessions, but that, just seeing them interact with one another in a different way was kind of cool.
oh, this is a senior.
Yeah, she loved it, and it was nice to hear, and I guess in perspective, you don't realize that some of these kids they're not in the same classes, they haven't seen each other for a year.
Right.
According to the envelope.
So, yeah, it was really great, I hope we can do a couple more.
Yeah, you don't realize it because you think they do, and all of a sudden, hey.
Yeah,
Only with half their class.
Yeah, so
Kristen, do you have anything?
But yeah, I think I talked enough today. Lots of information.
All set? Right?
I think I've talked enough too, but I'm gonna keep going. Two just very quick updates, on the district clerk, superintendent, secretary. Kristen and I did, we screened 3 internal candidates. All 3 did a great job. We're prepared to move all 3 into the phase of looking externally also, and invited all 3 to be a part of committee interviews when we get to that phase. So they did a great job. Since then, one person has withdrawn her name from consideration, from the internal candidates. From the external candidates, that position is advertised, it closes on the 26th. And really since about halfway through break to now, there's been a lot of activity. People reach out to Kristen, they request a brochure, we send the brochure, and then we wait for the application materials to come in. And right now, we have seen quite a bit of requests for brochures, and many of those are turning into applications also. So,
We're competing with Livonia too now.
and Caledonia.
Oh, I didn't
that's
see
right.
Caledonia.
And Caledonia.
Wow, they're all retiring at once, huh?
Yeah.
So it's been a good strong response, and we're gonna shut down on Friday and screen the applicants, and then from there decide who to bring in for committee interviews, and I'll keep you posted. That's on the district clerk. Next up is Beth emailed either over break or just prior to break. Really, I think incredibly thoughtful gesture on the part of the Board of Education to simply send a nice note to all the faculty and staff, and she brought forth some ideas and some different designs of cards and some different possible printed sayings, and then some possible suggestions, like class, you talked about being the teacher. And then she also made some suggestions about what some good, nice thoughtful handwritten comments might be also. This comes from the idea of just us sharing at the board how much people are doing to try to keep things going for students this year, and Beth just taking it on to try to do something nice for people. So Beth, I'll turn it over to you with some of the designs that you have, but I thought.
So Marcy, if you're listening, you please don't share. We'd like it to be a surprise. Okay? Marcy? Okay. So trying to, in keeping with like our green and white, and this is why my fingers look like this today.
You need to see her fingers, her hands are
Right.
green.
Yes.
They're, it's called.
We thought you did it just for the meeting tonight.
Spruce green, yeah. So again, white, green, and black. So here's, I don't know, can I see this?
Probably not.
Okay. So there's just, they're all the same. So it was just some painting and some
Yeah.
stamping and some other things. We could come up with 3 different cards. Here's another one that just says, thank you.
Do it randomly, and then
So,
pass on away.
well, I guess I'm just looking for feedback. So I gave 3 different ones. We could use all 3, and so there could just be a variety of cards, and put them in, or we could do all the green and white, and each one could have a different sentiment on the front and a different thing on the inside. The idea was so that you're not handwriting all of that. And then, you could just write a sentence or 2 in your own handwriting, put their name in your own handwriting, and go from there.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, how do you do that to all 200 people?
So what I would do is just take our list that's on our shared drive and divide it into the 5 of us. I probably would try to take more of the bulk because you're working. And Maya did give me the bus drivers because they were not on that list because it's a separate contract. And so we would just do that. I probably would take on more of the cards as well. So I'm going to go to the Penny Saver tomorrow and then see what they can do. So we may have to modify some of the wording if
Sure.
it's too much or, so just looking feedback on the words. Did you have a preference? Did you like one of them more than the others?
So are you just saying one of us is just signing the card or we're all signing?
So that's why I don't say like on behalf of the board,
Okay.
you know, so you're signing it on behalf of the board, but
Yeah.
it's coming from all of us.
So you would roughly sign 30-ish.
I like all three.
All three?
I think, yeah, if used.
So you wouldn't have all 5 signatures?
No.
Okay.
Just one on each.
Just one on each,
But I
everybody.
We do that once a year, I think.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. I like all the variety.
Okay.
I like all 3 sayings, but I thought all 3 of them
So
sounded
that-
great.
Okay, good.
They'll be getting different messages, but, and then in
I
addition.
mean,
they'll
they
be
will share,
handwritten.
I think they'll share with that each,
Sure.
you know, just like the Christmas.
So then I
card,
just
get
wrote down like,
their
you know, an extra line you could write in your own
Yeah,
handwriting.
sure. I think that's great.
Can I throw one thing in for thought?
Sure.
I love all 3 also, and I can't pick one over the other. I'm just wondering if you want to think about maybe this is something that happens again. Maybe a variety of cards and pick one expression, and then a unique handwritten note would allow you to go back and use these other 2 in future years if you wanted to without running the risk of somebody getting the same message. But just something to think about.
Yeah.
But this is really a board decision, the next gesture from the board, so I will be quiet over here.
I like that idea, but I also like them getting different
Yeah, no, I hear
sayings
what
as
you're saying,
well.
I like
So
the
if
We
variety.
can come up with a new.
We'll come up with
Yeah.
that. There'll be 3 more things to do.
I like how we say we will come up, Beth did all of this.
I
Yes.
just find sometimes it's easier to just put something out there, tear it apart, rework it, than to say, all right, let's start from scratch. What do you know?
That's the first thank you card from us.
Yeah.
Sorry for doing all that.
No, it's okay. This is what fuels me and gives me joy, so.
Very,
That's great.
very kind.
And we talked about this last fall. I think you brought it
I
up
did,
last
I was
fall. way
thinking
back.
about it, but it was right before
Right.
Christmas when we were doing the
Yeah, and then we
Christmas
did
card.
Christmas cards, so
And,
great opportunity.
I think, rather than trying to rework some of these other thank yous that I've made and coming up with the green, are you okay with maybe the basic one being all the same?
Yeah.
Or do you want like 3 different kinds of layouts? Again, it'd be more green.
Right. I think the same card would be.
I happen to have 3 ready to go.
Yeah.
It's the same basic design with the green and the
is.
white, but the expressions are.
Expressions
Yeah.
are different, the inside can
Yeah.
be different. Okay,
Yeah.
see what the penny saver says.
Yeah, that's awesome, Beth.
Yeah.
Thank you for indulging me.
If I can contribute in any way.
Yeah,
We'll figure that out, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to take them all, we can,
Oh, yeah.
we'll all do
yeah,
it.
well,
Oh, I know.
We're in shape from Christmas cards.
Right all day.
It's nice to have the name Jim.
I remember the first time I got the doctorate and I signed the diploma and I put EDD after it, I'm like, what am I doing? No, they all have to be the same.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I shouldn't sign the cards because we could name Karen these days.
Oh.
Karen Vanderbilt, that's tough, that's tough.
okay,
Thank you.
great idea. Anything else?
Nope, that's it, thank you.
All right, well, move on to roundtable then. Karen,
I'm good.
Beth, anything else?
Yeah, I do have one more thing. This is for the administrators. We have retired teachers. So I'm on the executive group for the retired teachers in our area for the region. And so this is a larger group. This is like a Western New York. And so I'll give them to Ryan. There's just applications for the Hudson Kramer Memorial Grant. And it's for teachers or administrators for advancement of education. It incorporates 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 counties, not just ours. So if you know, either for yourself working on a project, or if you know of some teachers, it's just the one application, so you have to make copies. But I just made copies for the 4 of you, if you know of some of your staff members that might want to apply. And also by applying, they might be letting you know that they're interested in, they're doing something new and different. So the first page is just goes through what it is, and then there's 2 pages for them to fill out. So I'll give those to Ryan, and he can pass them along to you. That's all I have.
Okay, Jim?
I'm all set.
Okay, guest recognition. Anybody, Marcy? Got anything you want to talk to us about? No? All right. Future board meetings, I'm just questioning 310. That's a Wednesday. Why is that?
I think it was due to the BOCES.
Is it, it's what?
I think it was due to BOCES. Let's see. Let me check the buy and get back to you on that.
Yeah, I just see 310. It might very well be a Wednesday, but that's our next meeting.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
on
on
our list.
Wednesday.
It's on Wednesday, okay.
Yeah.
It is on Wednesday. What is the 8th?
Are you
Oh, do you have a
somewhere?
conference? Did you have a
Yeah.
conference? You may have a conference. Or else I may have a conference.
Okay,
Andy, you or I had conferences.
Yeah, probably.
That's what
I don't recall what was in the way. Sorry.
the only other reason I'm thinking because of conference and let's see, I don't know where.
Yeah, that might be typically the NISCUS.
Daniscus, I'm thinking it's
Yeah, you're
Daniscus.
right. That's probably when that was supposed to be scheduled.
So is that still
No,
on?
it's not a conflict, but you want to just leave it Monday or Wednesday?
Well, I don't know. If it's not a conflict, what would you guys prefer? Just leave it the way it is, or do you want to go back to Monday? I don't know what Wednesdays is for you guys, if it, I don't know. How about you?
I just assume keep it on the Wednesday.
Okay, let's just leave it the way it is, there's no changes.
It's on the calendar now.
Yeah,
It's on the
right.
calendar.
Okay, and, oh, yeah, I moved, I already did guest recognition, utility. We do need an executive session, so I will entertain a motion to move to executive session if someone would like to make it.
I make the motion.
Karen, for a second?
I'll second.
Beth, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose, all the, pass 4-0. We're in executive session. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, all. Thank you.